Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's rap session. I'm your host today, Ebony, and I want to bring you just some quick breaking news. My shows don't last long at all, maybe just a few minutes. Today, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court ruling in the Electoral College. All right, we're going to talk about what the Electoral College is, how it affects us. But what I first want to do is share with you just a quick clip from the news.
Just months before the presidential election, the U.S. Supreme Court is telling electors in the Electoral College who determine the ultimate winner that they can't go rogue and not vote for the candidate who wins the state's popular vote. The decision essentially blocks a handful of would-be independent-minded members from deciding the next president. State officials have said these so-called faithless electors threaten the integrity of American democracy by undermining the will of the electorate and opening the door to corruption. But the plaintiffs in the case said the Constitution requires them to exercise independent judgment to prevent unfit candidates from taking office. The justices on Monday unanimously ruled in favor of Washington State and Colorado, which had imposed $1,000 penalties on several faithless electors who defied pledges in 2016 to vote for the winner of their state's popular vote, Democrat Hillary Clinton. Republican President Donald Trump defeated Clinton by a margin of 304 to 227 Electoral College votes, despite losing the popular vote nationally by about 3 million votes. In 2016, 10 of the 538 electors cast ballots for someone other than their state's popular.
All right, y'all. So as you can see, this is basically what happened in a nutshell. They're going to make it punishable that if somebody votes against what the people's popular vote is, they can be punished for it. And that's a good thing because let's look at why that's important. Number one, it's important in this ruling because now it holds the electoral voter accountable for voting against the popular vote. So just as a quick disclaimer, I just want to tell everybody that what I do here is really not about party. It's about just educating and letting people know about the different parts of politics. So we have to face it that a lot of people that rant nowadays about politics really don't know a whole lot about it. It's just kind of like ignorance on fire. So I would challenge every person that if you want to know more about politics, just start with the simple stuff. Start with the Constitution. I'm still learning more and more every day about it. Okay, so anyway, so here are some examples of the rulings. So in this diagram here, you see what 4 different over the 2016, 2000, 1888, and 1876 examples of where the person who won the presidency did not win popular vote. So last election, the very same thing happened. So what happens is over time that makes people feel like, well, if I vote, it doesn't count anyway because they're going to vote however they want to vote anyway. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate that. And so people are tired of feeling like that. Okay, because I think last election, the candidate who won the popular vote won by like between 2 and 3 million votes. Okay, and that's a big deal. Okay, so so the diagram basically showed you what happened in those elections. So the next question to ask is, why do we even have an electoral college? All right. Why we have an electoral college basically started a long time ago. So what we have to first know is that we don't live in a democratic country. We live in a democratic Republican country. And so basically what happened was the country in the North and the South, there were more people in the North, supposedly, than there were people in the South. So at the time, the landowners and the slave owners in the South were the minority. They owned a lot of land, but they didn't have the people. So what they wanted to do was use the slaves as a way to counteract as the way to counteract the number. So that's where you get where a person or a slave was only 3/5 of a person. Let's see. Deidre asks, why weren't these penalties in place from the beginning? Sad. Yes. That is sad. Thank you for joining me on YouTube. Also, I don't know why they were not put in place, but I'll tell you why it exists right now. It exists because landowners wanted a way to count the slaves as part of the population so they could get leverage, which is racially driven. Over time, what it did was actually gave too much power to the South. And states with a much bigger population, um, it gave them less power over time. So when the Electoral College was created, the founding fathers intentionally was seeking to keep the power out of the hands of the masses. And that is really important to note. All right, so right now we are fast forward and we're in 2020, and really it's almost sort of obsolete. So in America, we have a Democratic Republican. That means that we really don't count on individual votes. What we do is we elect people, and they're basically the mouthpieces for the country. And so we put the voting rights into the hands of those electoral colleges, and that was something that was done very early on. So that's why it's really important for everybody to fill out the census, because that is what's going to control part of our delegations and how many we get in each state. So as we're moving through history, and now we're here in 2020, where the pandemic has basically exposed a lot of structural issues, and we can't ignore them. So here's just a word of encouragement. The United States is just a baby country. All right. We are only, let's see, the United States is 244 years old as of last weekend. All right. So in comparison to other countries like China, Egypt, India, those countries are like 4,000 years old, at least, and so that would make us really like a toddler to them, or adolescent to these other countries. And for any parents out there, you know how it is when you have some adolescents, they're pretty rebellious. They want to push the buttons. They think they know it all. They want to do just what they want to do. And that's pretty much, well, the state that we're in right now. So all the things that we're going through really are kind of growing pains that a country like ours can go through. So we need to be adaptive to change, understand those structural issues, the moral issues that were interwoven into the very fabrics of our country, and that we need to take note into that as we move forward, regardless of what party that you support. I think there's something that we should really keep in mind as we go along, and it is this. I think hopefully you guys can hear me, because we're having some internet issues here, but use the Pledge of Allegiance as just a guideline. If you don't know much about the Constitution yet, if you don't know much about politics, just start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and that is something that all of us as citizens pledge to. And let's read it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. So when you